Well, hello. It's great to be able to chat with you this morning, or is it afternoon? Probably morning, on leading a worship set. And in order to get to leading a worship set, I suppose we first need to talk about setting up a worship set. So that's the two components of the conversation that I'm going to take you into today. I was actually contacted a few months back by somebody who I considered a fairly seasoned worshiper and part of a worship team, and uh, been in ministry for a long time, and they were asking, how do you set up your worship set? I thought, okay, well, that's something I haven't thought about, and I haven't thought about telling somebody how I process and set up my worship set. So I put some thoughts down, and then lo and behold, I was asked to share on this topic. So I have something that has been brewing for some time and is fairly current now. So let's go to the preparation phase. I don't know how it works in your particular local church or your campus. For us, we are at least a month, often 2 weeks, a month at least ahead in terms of where the conversation is going. And as we prepare for a specific Sunday, we know what the theme for that Sunday is going to be at least 2 weeks ahead, sometimes even longer. So what I do as part of the campus team, I'm aware of the conversation, what's being said, what is being said, what is going to be said. So then what I do is at least 2 weeks ahead of time, I'm in conversation with the Lord about that particular Sunday for which I'm going to be leading worship. I'm asking Him in the context of the conversation that we are having with you as a church. Firstly, what is it that you want us to hear from you on that particular Sunday? Secondly, what is it that you would like to hear from us when we get together with you on that particular Sunday? Now, more often than not, the answers to those questions are found. He will lead me to vocabulary for that conversation, which is probably already resonating in the sermon series or the scripture passages or the things, the conversations that we are having. I will find vocabulary and imagery there. So it's not that difficult. What I then need to do is I need to go in search of songs that add to the conversation, that complement the conversation. I wouldn't want to bring anything in that is in conflict with where the conversation is going. It's sometimes confusing and frustrating when you're in a conversation and everybody's on board, and then this one guy chips in and he throws in something, and you realize he's not listening to the conversation. He's not with us. He's on his own planet. He's got his own conversation going, and we are now just his audience. I don't enjoy that when worship leaders do that to a conversation, to a congregation, and chip in and bring stuff in. That's it. For him, it's wow, this is a great thought. I mean, good idea, lovely song or whatever, but it's not part of the conversation we're having as a congregation with God. Keep that song for another time. I've been put under pressure by church congregation members and fairly prominent and influential members, particularly guys in the worship team, saying to me, have you heard this song? We've got to do this song. And I realized, great song, nice word, awesome message, but that's not the conversation we are in at the moment with the Lord. So I put that then on the shelf until the conversation that we're having with God moves in that direction. Then I know I have a great song for that conversation. So in that sense, I go looking for songs then, and the resource base that I normally go and look at is firstly our own song database, everything that we've sung up until now, and I go and check on that and say, okay, so what is there in something in what we have done up until now? Whether it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, doesn't matter. But if there's a song that has elements of this conversation in it, then I bring that into consideration. Secondly, I go and ask, okay, so what is the current material that is, in a sense, popular or, well known, or people are at least aware of it, even though we may not be singing it yet. In some circles, people are aware that this song is starting to circulate. It's starting to get prominence. So I keep my ears and eyes open for that. And then in that pool of, let's say, popular Christian media platforms, in that pool, I go and ask myself, is there anything here that is in line with this conversation that we're having? And then the third option, of course, and this I have found to be fairly a regular occurrence, particularly in the early years of the developing of the Doxa Deo message and the prophetic word that was on our ministry. We were finding that other people were not singing about the stuff that God was talking to us about. And those songs didn't exist. Those conversations were not being had. So we had to write songs for those conversations in those seasons. So if nothing exists currently, or I can't put my hands on something that I believe will be conducive to this conversation, then I sit down and try and write something that works for that particular occasion, even if it's a bridge or a chorus or something like that, that I can fit into another song or between some songs. Then I try and do that, just to add elements of the current conversation that God is having with us as a local church into our worship experience. So in that sense, then, I normally end up with about 10 to 12 songs that I will be comfortable leading out of that pool. And then I start prioritizing them in order of what I call spiritual appeal. Spiritual appeal for me always trumps popular appeal. Radio play really doesn't determine a song's spiritual weight. It may determine how far it goes and how popular it becomes, but radio play doesn't communicate anything about spiritual weight. I love what Proverbs 25:11 says. It talks about an apt word or an appropriate word. A word in its time, he says, is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. For me, this is the ideal combination. Apples of gold, I'm seeing this as the word weight in a song. And a setting of silver, I'm seeing that as the anointed music in that sense. That combination of weighty revelation word and beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, attractive, anointed music. Apples of gold in setting of silver. That's what I'm looking for. I need at least one of those, if not more, for every set that I put together. So that's what I'm looking for in that group of 10 to 12 songs. So what I then do is I kind of shortlist then those songs and like 5 or 6 from that list, which then become my set list for the day. So I take those and I approach this thing from the angle of conversation direction. Who's talking to whom? And what are we speaking about? So firstly, I try and sift them into these 2 categories. The songs that we are singing about him, and then the songs we are singing to him. Those kind of, for me, they separate out easily, because for me it becomes frustrating to be in a conversation with someone, and then on the one hand, if there are 3 of us in the conversation and we're talking about one of the 3 of us in the conversation, for me it's great to listen to, let's say, speaker number 3, I'm speaker number 2, and the one we're speaking to is speaker number 1. It's great to hear speaker number 3 talking to me and about speaker number 1 and saying, he, this and that and the other. He told me, the other day when we were together, I heard him say this and that and the other. So him talking to me is fine with speaker 1 in my presence. That I'm happy with that. But it's awkward when the 2 of us are speaking the whole time to each other about this one, the speaker 1 who's in our midst, and we're not talking to him. So in that sense, to start out our worship time at a place where we're speaking about God, that's fine. But at some other stage, we need to include him in the conversation, and we need to talk to him. To talk to him then, and to talk about him, it's difficult to shuttle between those 2, like saying, yes, Lord, you are this and that and the other. We believe you said this and that and the other. And then go to, he told us, and how mighty he is, and how great is our God. And now we're talking to each other about him. So for me, it becomes uncomfortable when that shift is happening the whole time. Now it's to him, now it's about him, now it's to him, now it's about him. That, for me, that becomes uncomfortable. So I try and not go in that direction with the choice of communication direction in the song. So that then is pretty much where I would go as far as the songs are concerned. What I then do is I submit that grouping of songs to my worship leaders forum. And we have an arrangement that by the Sunday evening, before the following Sunday, the worship leaders forum needs to have that song and look through it and work through it, and or those songs, that grouping of songs, so that they can tell me whether they think I'm missing the boat, or they can add to the conversation. They can say, what about this song? And then we're in a discussion from the Sunday probably to the Monday and Tuesday. By Tuesday, I've landed this with the team, and then we go back to the worship team and we say, okay, out of our discussions in the past week, this coming Sunday, these are the songs that we'd like to have. Now, if one or two of those songs happen to be brand new songs that this worship team hasn't done before, we give them a heads up and say, guys, songs coming in the next few weeks. This is our theme, this is our conversation. We want you to listen through these songs, get the hang of them, so that when we start rehearsing them, they're not strange or brand new to you. So then, my worship leaders forum gives their suggestions to me as worship leader. My music director then goes and sits and comes with a suggestion in terms of this is how things flow or can fit together nicely musically. So out of that conversation with my worship leaders forum and with my music director, on Thursday evening, we step into the worship rehearsal. Everybody has already got the charts that they need. Those are available probably from Monday or Tuesday even. So Monday evening, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, the guys have an opportunity to look through the stuff, listen through the stuff. So by Thursday, when we get together, most of them will have have the stuff, and they will be able to use it. So it's that's pretty much the process we go through. And then on Thursday evening, we workshop the songs until everybody feels that when they step away out of Thursday evening, I can do this. This is my song. I can really work. I can present what we have here as if it's my own stuff. I so identify with the music, with the songs, with the lyrics, with the word. I can do this. This is who we are. This is who I am. Very often in those Thursday evening rehearsals, something of an arranging to suit the particular musicians who are on the stage on Sunday, that will happen. And so sometimes from Sunday to Sunday, if we do the same song 3 Sundays in a row, you'll find subtle differences in the way it's arranged, depending on what instruments and combinations we have in terms of vocals and instruments. So that we're not hard and fast as far as that's concerned. We're just a little bit flexible as far as that's concerned. So then in terms of the preparation for the set, setting up the set to take it to a Thursday evening rehearsal. From there on, of course, we bring it into the Sunday experience, and then it's my responsibility to lead that set.